Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay. My name is Megan Monahan, and this is my date of birth speech. My audience members are my dad, my mom, and my little brother. Here's my speech. Every day is significant, like Christmas, your anniversary, your dog's birthday, I guess. That's pretty important. But for me, September 14th is pretty significant because that's the day I was born. It's significant to others too, like in a pop culture standpoint. Life-altering events happened, and a lot of famous people had birthdays. Disney World made history that day by closing for the first time ever. The national anthem was created that day. It was written, but it wasn't called the national anthem yet. And 3 important people were born, 3 people that I admire and I think are pretty neat people. So there we go. First, I discovered a lot of things in pop culture happened, like in music parts, sports, and science. In 1999, my parents vividly remember this, right guys? You remember this? Hurricane Floyd made landfall when I was born, and that caused Disney World to close for the first time ever. It had been open for 28 years, and that was the first time it closed. And since then it had closed 5 more times, the most recent time being when Hurricane Irma hit, and they had to close it in Orlando for, I think, about a week it was closed, and then it reopened. The MLB only experienced 3 strikes, and one of them in 1994 led to the shutdown of the season on the day I was born, but 6 years before I was actually born. It led to the end of the season after a 34-day strike. It ended just about a week before the regular season was supposed to end, and that was, I think, the 2nd strike that the MLB had experienced. And finally, Luna 2, or Lunik 2, officially was the first man-made object that landed on the moon, crash landed on the moon actually, in 1959. Soviet Union's Luna program programmed this, and it led to the race between the Soviet Union and the United States to get the first man on the moon, which happened a few years later, and a lot of people don't believe it happened, but it probably did. Next, a lot of lives were changed on September 14th, and not just for me and my parents and everyone in my family. Vice President Theodore Roosevelt became the 26th president after the assassination of William McKinley in 1901. McKinley was shot to death that day, so Roosevelt sworn in later that day. McKinley was the 3rd president to be shot while in office. Abraham Lincoln was the 1st, and James Garfield was the 2nd. And the most recent one was John F. Kennedy, just probably about 50 years ago. Next, Mary Ann Fisher of Hecla, South Dakota, was the first mother to birth quintuplets in the United States. They were all born breech, which means they come out butt first. Doesn't sound nice. Between 1:58 a.m. and 3:01 a.m. on September 14th, 1963. She named her 5 kids Mary Ann, Mary Catherine, Mary Margaret, Mary Magdalene, and James Andrew Fisher. And lastly, the Star-Spangled Banner was written in 1814 by Francis Scott Key. It wasn't the national anthem at first. It took until about March 3rd, 1931 to be known as the more popular national anthem that we hear at baseball games, football games, high school sports, stuff like that, all over the place. Finally, I know I'm not the only one born on September 14th. Here are some pretty neat people I discovered share the same day of birth with me. Ivan Pavlov was born September 14, 1849, in Ryazan, Russia. He grew to become a physiologist, and he studied the responsiveness of dogs. He figured out you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Obviously, he's never tried to train a puppy or a middle-aged dog because our dog doesn't want to learn new tricks or listen at all. He passed away February 27th, 1936, in St. Petersburg, Russia. Next, Margaret Sanger was born September 14, 1879, in Corning, New York. She was an influential woman. She was a wonderful asset to the women's rights campaign and the movement during the last about century and a half. She popularized birth control, the term birth control, and the medicine, which prevents pregnancy, and not only does that, it helps uncontrollable acne, it helps improve cycles, and helps with hormonal disorders in women across the world. It saved a lot of women from the unavoidable. She was a birth control activist. She was a big asset to the sexual education community, and she was an incredible writer. And Margaret Sanger passed away September 16th, 1966 in Tucson, Arizona. Last, Amy Winehouse was born September 14th, 1983 in the United Kingdom. She was a very talented singer. Music was insanely popular. She won 5 Grammy Awards and the prestigious Best British Female Award in 2007. Her music wasn't widely accepted, but it was incredible enough to be recognized to that extent. Amy Winehouse passed away July 23rd, 2011 of an alcohol intoxication in London. To conclude, I know I'm not the only important thing about September 14th, because there are thousands of other September 14ths where cool things happen, like first object on the moon, first quintuplets were born, and a 5-time Grammy Award-winning artist was born. Someday I hope to add to the importance of September 14th as being known as someone born on that day who did something pretty cool throughout their life, and maybe adding importance to other dates throughout my life.